I would like to sincerely apologise for letting my ego, anger, and short-sightedness interfere with my judgment recently. I take full responsibility for my actions, and I am deeply regretful for hurting and offending you all.
Doxing. Let me make it clear. If somebody's real name and or address, phone number, etc. is not in the public eye whatsoever and you reveal this information on a public platform, you have now doxed somebody.
People are getting death threats by other followers, and now this is getting way out of control.
You have now doxed somebody.
There is a loser YouTuber, BakedSalmon, and West. Hey, West and Phil, you realize you are poking the bear at Chris Hansen. I will expose the stuff out of you. It's funny, West talks about his family knows all about it. When called,
you have now doxed somebody.
Because according to his side of the story, he told me that the claims from Bakeline were nonsense and pretty much slander and libel.
Folks, for whatever reason, have created false accounts in places on the internet that you may or may not go, Reddit being one of them.
When called out for it, Vincent claimed that he had been hacked.
Doxing meaning that you put out private information, locations, and this is stuff that we would never do.
He had been hacked.
You have now doxed somebody.
I never thought I would have to make a response video, but hey Vince, why don't you have a receipt? Wait a minute, because this is a special occasion, I'm sure I can do better than that.
From town to town and coast to coast, Vince have a receipt with Moast.
This scalding cup of tea comes courtesy of Josh Who TV. If you want to say shit and boob and predator and still be monetized, check those guys out. They are also the exclusive home of Bakeline until Chris Hansen and his team stops filing false copyright claims to keep the truth from being heard. For anyone who just wants to read the entire string of text without the context I am providing, there is a link in the description to a video showing all text dating back from May 2019 until my final communication with Vince on New Year's Eve. No cuts, no edits, and no bullshit. Didn't I warn you what would happen if you struck our video?
If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Didn't I also tell you not to dox me again because no good would come from it? Speaking of bad ideas, doxing me again would be a really bad one. As I let you know back in August, I am in New York 3 times in 2020 for conferences, and I am not against meeting you for a one-on-one dialogue to discuss the pros and cons of behaving like an adult online. And that's not a threat, it's a bona fide ironclad guarantee. Don't be that guy. If you have some shit to say to me, say it. Well, call me Negro Damas because you did both those things and it blew up in your face like jokey fucking Smurf, didn't it? Do I also need to warn you not to strike this video with the copyright claim?
If you strike me down, I shall become...
At the time of this writing, it has been 5 days since Vince doxed me on New Year's Eve, and I haven't heard a word from him. I figured after deleting his Twitter, he would at the very least try and play the nice guy and send some half-assed apology, but I haven't heard a word. After all, my only crime that day was dropping the Bakeline video proving that he lied about his new websites.
It's a brand new platform, guys. Brand new. I just released it Sunday. I've been working on it for over a year.
And then going on a live stream and discussing the time Vince doxed me and another member in August. Oh, did he forget to mention that he doxed us both before and later blamed a hacker?
He had been hacked.
30 minutes later, he doxed us both again to his 3,000 plus Twitter followers. Vince thought, why stop there? And at 11:58 p.m., 2 minutes before ringing in the new year on the West Coast, BakedSalmon's channel was taken down with 14 false copyright strikes from Vince & Company. I mentioned that it was 11:58 p.m. on the West Coast because Vince is on the East Coast, meaning that at almost 3 a.m. his time, on the first day of 2020, Vince was celebrating the new year by obliterating a vocal critic. While he sought to mute Baked and I, he certainly had a lot to say to me on New Year's Eve. Never things he would say to my face, or even on the phone when I called him and he refused to answer. This text message tough guy had all kinds of things to say, accused me of being gay, calling me a pedophile, telling me he was going to get me fired from my job, threatening me with a gun, and telling me he wasn't sexually attracted to me. I'm not gonna lie, That last one may have hurt the most. This wasn't a drunken screaming match with a stranger at a bar either. This was via text, meaning no matter what his state was when he sent those texts, he saw them later and saw exactly what he said. And still, no apology. Instead, what he did was embark on a feeble attempt to assassinate my character with a number of ridiculous, unfounded, unproven lies. Well, Vince, like I said after you doxed me with that first racist text on Twitter, game on. I couldn't help but notice your text screenshots of our conversations look much different than mine. You know, the real ones. I am willing to order certified text records from my phone company and have them sent directly to a third party for verification. Are you willing to do the same? Wait, let me guess. The FBI has your phone, trying to find whoever hacked your Twitter that night, right? I'm going to present these texts in order, starting in May 2019 when Vince inquired about hiring me, but thought I would share this one first. Vince actually told me ahead of time he was going to dox me and shows me the picture he's going to use right after telling me he was going to get me fired from my job. He ends that by telling me I look like a homosexual. You know, because homosexuals all have a certain look. It's the kind of thing a 10-year-old will throw around the playground because they are young, dumb, and afraid of what they don't understand. If this was a hacker emulating Vince, they had certainly done their homework to capture his impulsivity, lack of control, and juvenile intellect.
Look over there! If it's not cool cat Maria, they think they're so cool. Longer a punk up.
On May 30th, BakedSalmon and I released the first episode of Bakeline. We were critical of Chris Hansen and his motivations for coming back to YouTube. He was making a lot of promises and not delivering on anything and had no proof of what he was doing. I was very critical of the website, and we both referred to the entire operation as a fly-by-night money grab. Vince called me almost immediately after the video premiered, but I was on a plane getting ready for takeoff and could not answer. We texted for a few minutes and he was not only grateful for the criticism, but he offered me a job, asking me what I charge for my services. He tells me he is overwhelmed and needs to bring someone else in. Now this is right after telling me he was paying for things out of his own pocket. So let me get this straight. Chris Hansen had been out of jail about 4 months for bad checks at this point, and apparently the production is so financially strapped that Vince is footing the bill himself. What is he gonna pay me with? Love? A 10% discount to excessbuilder.com? I'm surely not gonna take a check. There are other texts after that, but let's skip forward to the first time Vince doxed me back in August because I think it's a pretty interesting story. I wonder why he didn't bring this up when he was defending himself for doxing me just a few days ago. Vince and I started working together in early May of 2019, and I offered pro bono digital marketing consulting. I was happy to help get Chris Hansen back to his previous form and excited for new predator investigations he promised. I worked with Vince about 6 or 7 weeks before giving up in late June. I'm a busy guy, and while he seemed to appreciate the assistance, he was unable to implement even the most simple of design changes or fixes to a marketing plan. On July 30th, 2019, over 400 videos were copyright claimed in retaliation for a video being claimed by a member of the TCAP community. This member was Yap Yap. You may remember her from being doxxed on New Year's Eve along with me. Chris Hansen would later admit on camera he did this in response to the strike, even though most of the videos they struck had nothing to do with Chris Hansen.
Well, again, this is all about protecting the property.
They even had the nerve to copyright strike the 1-hour interview BakedSalmon and I recorded with Vince, using our own equipment as the property of Chris Hansen. I was pissed, so I messaged Vince and let him know about it. He said I needed to take it up with Chris, so I let him know I would be taking it up with the entire Hansen vs. Predators team. So what did Vince do? Did he ignore me? Oh no. He doxed me on a YouTube comment because that is his go-to move. He said the FBI was looking into me because of threats I made in our videos. So now he went from thanking me for our criticism in May to doxing me for it in July as he slowly began to unravel. And to anyone who believes I threatened him in those videos, all of the Bakeline videos are hosted on Joshua TV. Watch for yourself. I asked Vince to remove my name immediately from YouTube, and in classic Nicotra fashion, he blamed Chris Hansen and acted completely justified in what he did. He took zero responsibility and instead claimed our videos talking about his work counted as harassment. I don't for a minute believe Chris Hansen instructed Vince to dox me, but it was an excuse. And as we have all seen recently, he will keep trying on excuses until he finds one that fits. Vince was drunk with power and possibly alcohol as he gloated at his work. He told me my comments were destructive, so I basically deserved it. Yes, the boy who Chris Hansen put in charge of representing him when dealing with sexual abuse survivors told me he violated my privacy because I deserved it. It's great that I have that in writing. If the doxing he did in August or again on December 31st leads to any violence against me or my family, Vince alleges that Chris Hansen gave him my name and instructed him to dox me online. When Chris found out about it, did he fire Vince? No. A few months later, he will be promoted to on-air talent. It's unbelievable. KFC would have fired this guy 5 months ago, and Chris Hansen is promoting him to eat popcorn on live streams. Why won't he fire Vince? Is there something he knows and Chris is afraid he will throw him under the bus as soon as he is fired? There has to be a reason this untalented hack has been kept around as long as he has. Later that night, I got a message from Vince around 1 a.m. blaming me for a Reddit post he claimed I put up doxing him. He said if I didn't remove the video, he would dox me again. I asked Vince for the Reddit link I supposedly doxed him on over and over again, and he would never provide it. I was going to be in New York 2 weeks to the date after that text. When I let Vince know that, and that I would discuss it with him in person if he chose to dox me again, his response was very different. I guess things change when you realize it's not just going to be over text, don't they, Vince? Well, that's funny. He claimed he would not dox me online again, but I guess that would only last until he was angry or allegedly inebriated enough to do it again. It was the last sentence that struck out to me the most, though. Vince needs to be the hero. He wanted me to know that he was independently working to get the channels and videos back that he himself had pulled in an effort to exert power. He wanted me to think Chris Hansen was the bad guy, and he was the innocent guy in the middle working his ass off to make things right. Then Vince did something so shocking, I am still shaken by it all these months later. Did he build something competent? Speak intelligently? Or add anything of value to a live stream? No. He told the truth and admitted he doxed me because he was upset with me and apologized. This may be the first and only time he has ever done that in his life. The day before this message, Yap Yap had been doxed on Reddit by Vince. He gave her name, workplace, and all of her online aliases. When asked about it in a stream that day, Vince claimed the site had been hacked by impostors. They then used his Hansen vs. Predators Reddit account to post her information online.
Folks, for whatever reason, have created false accounts in places on the internet that you may or may not go, Reddit being one of them.
He also said they had contacted the authorities and the FBI was looking into the hacking. Sadly, there's no footage of this stream because nobody in our small community recorded those, but it led to this series of texts with Vince. I pressed Vince about the alleged hacking. If the site was hacked as he claimed, they had a responsibility to alert their members and let them know their personal data could be at risk. Not just a moral responsibility, but a legal one. There are laws in place stating what a company must do if there is a security breach, or they risk huge fines and legal ramifications. Of course, the only person who is a real threat with your personal information is Vince, but I wanted to see how deep he would dig himself a hole. He tried dancing around the answer, and I wouldn't drop it, so he accused me of harassment. Silly me, worried about someone having access to my info just a day after he doxed me. I dropped the whole thing after this. I had no reason to go back and forth, and it felt like I was talking to a wall. He messaged me again in September, asking me to check out the changes he made to the website, and I ignored him. I was done. It would be almost 5 months before I had any contact with Vince. I had been alerted that Vince had debuted 2 new websites as part of his brand, and I was asked my thoughts. Now, remember, I had spoken with Vince at length and I had seen his designs and work, so I was immediately skeptical, especially after watching the videos, and he seemed very unfamiliar with both platforms. On the morning of December 31st, BakedSalmon and I posted our video exposing Vince and the inaccuracies in his presentations. Okay, maybe I wasn't that tactful because the question I really had was this.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying?
Later in the day, I was invited on the now infamous stream with Yap Yap to discuss the doxing incident from August. Within 30 minutes of getting off that stream, I was told that Vince was doxing me again and I was sent this post. I tried calling Vince, but he did not want to answer, so I sent him a text. I did not expect this response from Vince. He has been silly before, but he seemed genuinely unhinged here. I get it. We took his poorly executed get-rich-quick scheme and blew it up in his face, so I expected him to be angry. But with the size of Chris Hansen's channel and his newfound love in a community after being largely hated by the TCAP community, I expected him to handle himself with a certain amount of maturity. There was no way Vince would be stupid enough to dox me again just minutes after we told a stream about him doing it this summer, right? Well, if I learned anything, I learned to never underestimate this man's stupidity. He calls me a psycho and tells me I'll be fired from my job. He said he was going to turn my shit upside down, whatever that means, and sends me the picture of myself with the message, "Thanks, I am posting this on Twitter." That's where the intent comes in, because right after this, he doxed me. Not to be outdone by the racist comment he made on Twitter, he made sure to call me gay and in another devastating blow, said I need a haircut. This is a 42-year-old legal adult we are talking about, using homophobic slurs and judging my hairstyle. Total mean girl. And then he does it. Doxes Yap Yap and I and gloats about it. There was no supposed hacking. Nothing was done to him. He was not provoked other than the video and Yap Yap and I discussing his actions on a stream. He also doxes several other members of our community to me. I don't know these people's names and I don't care to. This was purely a move to show me what he knew and how powerful he thought he was. This is what Vince does with the personal information he has gathered from people. He uses it in whatever way will benefit him. Why is he trusted with the information of people who have already been violated before? Can Chris answer that? I was busy doing New Year's Eve things, so I was away from my phone for a few minutes. When I got back, Vince had grown incensed from my silence. He told me that what he was doing was not doxing because he is in journalism. That's news to me. I can now add journalism to the long list of things Vince is bad at and should not be allowed to do. I guess Vince missed the part of the law where anytime you share someone's personal information online with malicious intent, that's doxing. Thanks again for the proof, Captain Morgan. I called Vince again and he sent the call straight to voicemail. When I told him I was self-employed so he probably wasn't going to get me to fire myself, he threatened to dox me as a hacker on LinkedIn and Twitter. The threats just kept coming from this guy. Unsatisfied with the juvenile name calling he had already done, Vince went for the big guns and called me a salty, dangerous, bad human being. Those were all just warm-ups for him next accusing me of being a pedophile. This guy works with possible victims of sexual abuse and violence, and he is throwing around pedophile accusations like it's a joke. In less than an hour, he made a racist comment, called me a homosexual, and now he's calling me a pedophile, all because he was exposed as a fraud. He then made it clear that because he said alleged hacker on his tweets, that it was perfectly legal and not slander or libel to accuse Yap Yap and I of a crime. Well, that's also funny because when he spoke with Drama Opinions about me, he said our video where we showed ironclad proof of his lies was also slander and libel. Vince, do you need a dictionary to look those words up and what they mean? You will also see the entire time I tried steering the conversation back to pro streams and XS video, and he refused to discuss it. He just wanted to keep making attacks and calling me salty and dangerous. It was also important for Vince to let me know that him and Chris Hansen were now looking into me. I'm sure the next step would be to involve the FBI, right Vince? Just like you said back in August? He also let me know he had been invited on a few shows and that he would be sure to talk about me in the community. I took that as he was admitting he was going to go on some more shows and accuse me of being a hacker. And he did. Lying to Drama Opinion and trying to prove to her that I was a disgruntled job seeker angry about a job I didn't get.
He said that West was angry because he didn't get a job on the Chris Hansen show.
This part doesn't really need any explaining, does it? But this guy is trash. I told him I would talk to him in person, so he told me he would be carrying a gun. That's a real man right there.
You kids today are nothing but punks, so quick to pick up a gun. When I was growing up, this was all the protection we needed.
I guess the tough guy talk is only reserved for when we're 2,000 miles apart. The mental game of chess takes yet another turn as Vince skillfully steers the conversation back to me being gay.
Got him!
Shooting me down in the process, just in case the argument was turning me on, I guess. He says my business is destroyed. Not sure what he did to do that, other than maybe telling people I hired him as a web designer, but whatever. They can't all be gems. I didn't answer the question about my health insurance, out of fear he would try and sell me a policy on some janky-ass website he built. I don't get this comment, but apparently me telling him I would see him in New York was mighty white of me. I should probably ask BakedSalmon. That guy is really white, and he'll probably know the answer to that. Or maybe Vince didn't send that one, and it was his drunk friend Chris just trying to stir things up. I'll thank him for that one later. The comment about my text splashed across his TV screen, serving as entertainment, only made me envision that they were having the saddest New Year's Eve ever at the Nicotra house. It was a very gappy New Year indeed. Vince shows me my LinkedIn and Facebook pages. Is this supposed to scare me? He has my name, so why is him finding my LinkedIn supposed to scare me? Isn't that the whole fucking point of LinkedIn? My Facebook is private, so I guess this was supposed to scare me too, but it just made me say, yup. For a guy who never has receipts, he has zero problem creating them everywhere he goes. I also don't get this next comment because I'm not 100% sure it's English, but Vince said, alleged hacking your Bash Fest discredits. Now, I don't speak alcoholese, but all I could make out of it was that he was going to discredit my Bash Fest, aka our video where we found out he was a fraud, by alleging I hacked his Twitter. Well, I allege it was many beers past Miller time at this point, so his spelling and grammar were worse than normal. This was the final message when I realized it was time to say goodbye to Vince. The conversation was getting tedious, and I didn't want to continue arguing with Vince on New Year's Eve. I had a bear just waiting to be pulled, and after checking the tweet, I saw the blowback Vince was causing to himself. The absolute hatred people had for his post, and how disgusted they were, almost made the doxing worth it. This is who Vince always was, and now other people were seeing it too. I also wanted people to see what Chris would allow Vince to get away with. Would the FBI continue providing resources and assistance to an operation that employs an immature loose cannon? To anyone who believes Chris is just unaware and Vince is pulling the wool over his eyes, Chris is a smart man. Yes, he has made bad decisions and is shitty with money, but he knows exactly what is going on when it comes to Vince. He knows videos exist, and he knows Vince has doxed people before and led an assault against the TCAP community that killed his chances of making any money there, and he kept him around anyway. On the live stream directly after all this blew up, Vince may have been off cam, but he was there behind the scenes. Chris chose to hide him and not discuss things rather than terminating him immediately. What's it gonna take? I tried to ask why the chat room rules about no doxing did not apply to the producer of the show, but my comment was removed and I was blocked. They also continued to promote ProStreams.live, a platform built on lies using stolen content that can't be monetized by Google AdSense because of all of that duplicate work. Oh shit, Vince, I almost forgot. This is a little bit off topic, but during that drama opinion video, you claimed you had the content duplicated on your ProStream site because you had gotten advice and worked with Josh from Josh Who TV. She saw emails verifying you two had spoke, so that was a case of he said, and those things are sometimes impossible to prove. Except in this case.
Just one more thing.
A GitHub tech support request where you are asking why you can't get your site monetized with Google AdSense. Let me just be the first one to say it, Vince. It says right there you can't get monetized because of the duplicate content on your site. You know that content isn't yours, so why are you bothering tech support with this dumb question? You're gonna question my English comprehension and you can't understand this?
Fuck that guy.
Well, when I scroll down, look who pops up in the string. None other than Joshu TV, and this does not appear to be the words of a man who was aware that Vince was stealing his content, does it? In fact, he seems pretty upset about it. Congratulations, Vince. Other than admitting you lied about building those sites, you lied about everything else you told Drama Opinion. That's probably some kind of record. No, not for you, that's probably just par for the course. Anyway, back to New Year's Eve. I went about my night and later joined Twitter and shared the video posted on Joshu TV. I wasn't the only one though. Should you decide to go against your own copyright policy that you stole from this guy, then this video will turn into a fucking hydra. Each one you strike down will make 3 more pop back up.
Boy, you think I'm playing with you? Huh?
Many people were sharing it on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and that hydra I promised to you, Vince, should you decide to falsely claim our video, became a reality. Had you just left the video alone and not doxed Yap Yap and myself, there is a really good chance this would have blown over by now. But as a very wise person once said, neckbeards gonna neckbeard. This is a final update. On January 6, 2020, a full 6 days after being doxed and falsely accused of hacking Vince, 6 days after BakedSalmon lost his channel, we received an email from Janice. Rather, I should say BakedSalmon received an email because, as she puts it, she believes in taking a higher ground, and I guess I'm just too much of a savage to make that possible. Was she contacting us to apologize for the multiple doxing events since August? To apologize for BakedSalmon's channel being taken down for the 2nd time since July? Or to apologize to the many fans of Chris Hansen they lied to with their website schemes? No. She had one thing she wanted to make clear. She says Vince paid $1,000 for the ProStream scripts while I said it was free. She also alluded to the fact that by me saying it was free, I could possibly be committing slander and libel. There are those 2 words again. While she has yet to provide any proof of that assertion that Vince did in fact pay $1,000 for something that is given away for free, I have 2 things I'd like to add. Number 1, who gives a fuck?
I don't give a fuck.
Whether the script was free, $1, or $10,000, the point is you both lied about it being an in-house, custom-made platform he built over the course of a year. How dare you try and spin the narrative into how much you paid for that script? Address the lie and the stolen content and apologize to those content creators you were trying to bring over to your janky platform. 2, where are your priorities? With everything you have destroyed and possibly derailed, how in the fuck do you contact us with anything other than an apology? Where is your real apology to the anti-Onision community that has taken you in, propped you up, and treated you like royalty while you bumble your way through every possible scenario? Why are other people speaking for Vince? Funny how all that big talk and bravado have reduced you to the meek, simple-minded, scared little boy I always knew you were, hiding behind the tattered coattails of your hero and your wife. When you said you came heavy, were you referring to the 2 people you send out to do the fighting for you? I know you're listening, Vince, so I'll ask you right here. Are you done fucking around? Or do I need to keep going? You didn't really think I only had the one doomsday device, did you? Once again, a special shout out to Joshu TV for having our back and not removing the Bakeline videos, despite someone reaching out to them and demanding they do because they're slander and libel. Huh, that phrase sounds familiar. Don't worry, I'll have those receipts too. If you want to see the rest of the Bakeline series that Chris Hansen and Vince had wiped from YouTube twice to hide our commentary, visit the link in the description. If you're a content creator and you want to post your videos on an alternative platform run by someone who actually knows what they're doing and can monetize, I suggest you check out Joshu TV. I'm Wes Moast, thanks for watching.
Shit.
Build your stupid trash website 100% free at bsbuilder.com. Tell a friend, tell your mama.